Alright, so yesterday I mentioned on my TikTok page that I found a Kepplinger set trigger for my Ruger #1 in 7mm STW. And I got it installed yesterday. It was a bitch. I've never tore down the Ruger #1 that far before. And I actually took it down too far because I didn't have any instructions for the Kepplinger. So I was going off the instructions for the jarred trigger. And I took the gun down too far, but it needed a good cleaning and stuff anyway. But we do have it in here, so I'm going to flip the phone around here and kind of show you guys what this does. Alright, so here is my Ruger #1. It is a factory STW rifle. There's a 7 STW next to a 28 nozzler. You can see the case length's almost identical, or cartridge overall length. It's 28 nozzler is a little bit fatter and a shorter case, but it's also designed for the bullet to be pulled out quite a bit farther. So you could see, you know, if I was to shove that 195 in that STW case, I'd be taking up a lot more bullet capacity or case capacity than with the 160. So both good cartridges. STW's got the belt. Just kind of different beasts, the same goal. But here is I'll give you kind of a brief rundown on this. When I first got this rifle, this is what I wanted to start out in long range shooting with. And it was not a good choice at the time. But financially, it's been a great choice because this rifle is worth considerably more than I paid for it. I did do a deal called a Hicks Accurizer. And on this rifle, there's a forearm hanger that comes down here. It's got the spring and everything in it. And the Hicks Accurizer goes on the forearm hanger and it has a set screw that you can tighten to adjust the barrel harmonics. And it actually dropped the group in this from about 1.5 MOA or 1.5 MOA to roughly 3/4 MOA. And it's hard to see it. I got the rifle clamped in here, but there's a hole in the forearm hanger screw hole, another hole drilled that you can access that Allen key without having to take the forearm off. And E. Arthur Brown Company is the one that was selling all this stuff, and they actually did the install for me because you had to inlet the stock and stuff for it. So, and they also used to sell this Kepplinger trigger, but I never did do it, and I wish I would have. And then kind of just give you a rundown on the optic setup. These scope mounts aren't the greatest. The varmint target versions actually had 2 blocks that are a little more consistent than this really thin rib. So you do get some flex in this a little bit, which also makes it a little more difficult for long range stuff. But I converted the Ruger, the standard Ruger mount system to this Picatinny rail. These are Burris mounts. And then these are Burris Signature Select rings with the bushings inside them. And I don't know if you can see it, but that scope actually has a downward tilt. Like if I were to use a 20 MOA base, those bushings allow you to do that. On the back side here, the bottom one's thicker than the top. So that it kind of allowed me to do the 20 MOA cant almost long before a 20 MOA cant was really a thing. Because I bought this in like 2004 probably. And this is a Burris Signature Select scope. And it's been a good scope on here. By today's standards, it's probably not one of the greatest. It does have adjustable turrets. And, you know, they work. I've never really checked the tracking on this. It's not something I dialed a lot. I'm pretty much going to set this rifle up for maximum point blank range and leave it. But for all in all, when I first started, this was kind of a cool rifle. But the one thing that was bad about these rifles, on top of just the design when it comes to long range stuff, was the trigger. So I got one of these Kepplingers finally, and so far I'm pretty impressed with it. It's got the set feature, which hold on just a second here. We need to raise this up just a little bit. Sorry, got a little shaky. But now I can cock the rifle. It's a falling block rifle, single shot. And what the kepplinger did is allow you to put the trigger in a set position. So you push it forward and now it's set, and it's considerably lighter than the standard trigger. You can also just use it like a standard trigger. But you see it's got a lot more creep and everything than if you do it in the set position. So in the set position, it just drops. I have read that it does increase the lock time on this when it comes to ignition. That's something I'm going to have to play with a little bit. But with good fundamentals, you can really mitigate that as long as you're behind the rifle and you're you're doing everything you need to do. Fundamentally, that lock time increase shouldn't hurt too much. But it's kind of just a piece of history for the Ruger No. 1s. I know there's a couple triggers out now. So there was Canjar that was making triggers for these, Moyers, Jard, and Kepplinger, and I think that might be about it. E. Arthur Brown sells one of those still, but it's not the Canjar or the Kepplinger. And people have had really good luck with that trigger too. It's not a set trigger, it's just a lighter trigger. But yeah, kind of a neat little setup. I'm kind of getting more nostalgic now in my hunting, and I'm wanting to bring out a lot of these guns that I haven't used in a long time instead of just my high-tech long-range rifles. So this one might get a little usage next year if I get some tags. But yeah, neat piece of history. If you guys got Ruger No. 1s laying around, don't get rid of them. They're kind of few and far between now. And this one's still in really good shape. It's probably had a few hundred rounds put through it, which on an STW is about a third of its barrel life anyway. But the rifling and stuff still looks really good, so I'm pretty happy with the rifle. So let me know what you guys think.